Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago here on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adana Kambi, and we begin conversation straight away with our first guest. We're speaking with Mr. Hayden Romano. He's the Managing Director of EMA, that's the Environmental Management Authority, and we're going to have conversations as it relates to the roles and functions of the EMA and the Tobago space in specific. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me, and I'm really very happy to be here.
And we are so indeed very happy to have you. And, environmental management is very important. And, as we're speaking about the Tobago space, so many things have been happening in the Tobago space, especially recently. And so before we get into what is EMA doing in our space, we want to speak specifically to what are the roles and responsibilities of the EMA. We want to bring some public awareness and education to our viewers and listeners as to the role, the operations of the EMA within the Trinidad and the Tobago space.
Thank you so much for that, Adana. So the EMA was established in 1995. Next year, we will be celebrating our 30th anniversary. And in 1995, the government of Trinidad and Tobago decided that it needed to establish an environmental management authority. And I think the authority part of it is important because we are not an environmental protection agency. We are a management authority, and we're really tasked with sustainable development. We're tasked with moving forward with the sustainable development of Trinidad and Tobago's resources. And I think we always have to remember, because I think sometimes we forget it's one country, but two islands. And the EMA has had a presence in Tobago since we were established, and now understanding Tobago's development, we are actually increasing that presence in Tobago. So what is the role of this EMA? So the role encompasses permitting, and the permit that most people know about is the Certificate of Environmental Clearance, which for 44 designated activities, which will encompass projects from a wastewater treatment plant to clearing of land, to modification and realignment of water courses, to large projects and large developments, to developments on slopes that exceed 1 in 4, so the development on steep slopes. So it's quite a wide range of activities. And before you can do those activities, you need to apply for and obtain a Certificate of Environmental Clearance from the EMA. The other permits that people might be familiar with is the water pollution permits, the waste pollution permits, the noise permits, the air pollution permits. And then after, the two other rules that we have in force is the environmentally sensitive species rules and the environmentally sensitive areas rules. But that's only one function of the EMA. The EMA is also tasked with building public awareness and public education with respect to the environment. And one of the ways we do that is the celebration of World Environment Day every year. And I'm really, really happy to say, that this year, 2024, June 5th, 2024, we will be celebrating World Environment Day in Tobago in partnership with the Tobago House of Assembly. So, I think we need to stay tuned for those celebrations, because we're doing World Environment Day celebrations in Tobago in 2024. World Environment Day is big for the EMA because the EMA was formed on World Environmental Day, June 5th, 1995. So then we go to coordination, because the legislators at the time in 1995 recognized that the EMA was not the only kid on the block with respect to environmental management. You had the various regional corporations and municipal corporations, and now Tobago House of Assembly have a role with respect to environmental management through the Municipal Corporations Act and the THA Act. You have the police have a role with respect to environmental management with respect to nuisance and the Summary Offences Act. You have the Ministry of Agriculture, lands and food production. I mean, have various pieces of legislation with respect to wildlife, with respect to forests, and the list goes on. So the EMA was also tasked with coordinating all these pieces of legislation, and we've done that, one, through establishing memorandums of MOUs, memorandum of understanding with the various agencies, including the THA, and with the THA, the mechanism in terms of implementing the MOU is through something we call the clearinghouse. And the clearinghouse is co-chaired by the Secretary for the Environment, Secretary Charles Spanton, and the chairman of the EMA, and it meets quarterly to discuss issues that are of concern to Tobago. So as I said, the EMA is not only enforcement, it's also about a number of other things, from education to coordination, and projects in terms of and the big project that people would know about would be our recycling project, the iCare project, which in Tobago is called the recycling, let me try to remember that, the Tobago Resource Recycling Initiative. And in Tobago, it was a public-private partnership between the THA and the private sector group. Lord, I've gone on for a long time, Adana. I mean, maybe I should give you a chance now.
Quite fine, sir. That's quite fine. One of the things I wanted to piggyback on is you were mentioning a whole lot of things that the EMA is responsible for and some of the things that they contribute to. And one of the primary things is the public education, because without education or information, then persons are left up to speculation, right? So I want to know how aggressive is the public education there in terms of the roles and functions of the EMA at this present moment. I know we're heading into Environmental World Day in June, and so what would it look like between now and that period, and how aggressive do you intend to become in terms of informing and enlightening the public about your roles and responsibilities, also about your visibility in public spaces?
Wow. So recognizing that everything we do is constrained by resources, we have attempted to partner with organizations in terms of the whole public education and awareness program. So we've also had a strong role in the schools with respect to the environmental clubs, and a lot of the schools in Trinidad and Tobago have environmental clubs. We've partnered with government organizations such as your Department of the Environment in terms of running various programs and coming and visiting not only schools but also private sector organizations to try to build the awareness with respect to the environment. All our projects, including the iCare project or the TRR project in Tobago, have a significant public education and awareness component. The Greenleaf Awards are something which we do biennially. So the next Greenleaf Awards would be in 2026, and we'd make some announcements about that at World Environment Day 2024. So the Greenleaf Awards is meant to recognize projects, communities, persons who have done significant contributions to the environment. Last year, we celebrated youth, and that was quite well received. And this year we are re-energizing something that we had before, which is youth ambassadors, because this is how we hope that we could spread the word with respect to the environment. Yes, I mean, it is always said that we need to do more. We are doing more, but we're trying to do more differently. We're trying to do more using not only the EMA's resources, but the resources in the country. So the youth resources, whether it's through schools or through our re-energized youth ambassadors, whether it is through companies and having companies move forward in terms of their ESG, their environment, social and governance responsibilities, which once upon a time used to be corporate social responsibilities. And through interviews like this, I mean, and maybe, I mean, we need to be, present more on programs like these to build the word and to continue preaching with respect to the environment. We keep on hearing that, it's only talk. There is no action, it's only talk. But we have not found a mechanism to make change except through talking. The first thing we need to do, we need to be talking, we need to be educating. And we can only educate by talking through mechanisms like these, or through advertisements, or through projects. But all of it involves a lot of talk. So when people say only talk, no action, I think they're being a little bit harsh, because we need to talk.
And that gives me a good springboard for my next question, which I wanted to bring up in this conversation. Earlier you mentioned that some of the responsibilities of the EMA is to ensure we sustain resources. You also spoke to the fact of realignment of water courses. And we do know that there's a situation that has taken place in Tobago around the Turtle Beach area, where a private developer was developing a piece of property along his property there, and of course realigning the water course. And from our information, this has been taking place for over a year, and we have come to learn that the EMA was recently invited only at this point, after 1 year of the developer attending to this water course, that the EMA has now stepped in. Of course, the question is, why? How is it, or why? What was the reason that it took a year for the EMA to be involved in taking any action, or action that is seen in the public domain?
So let me correct the record. So the EMA has been aware of this activity since last year. So last year, and I think we were informed of the activities taking place on that site in April of 2023. We visited the site, and we started gathering information, because by the time we arrived on the site, the activities were completed. We had discussions, and I'm not going to call any names, both with THA and the purported owner of the land, because we are still awaiting confirmation on who owns the land. So we are not sure about who owns the land as the investigation continues. And Adana, I would say these investigations will continue in October because we have correspondence up to October last year. The works were all completed, and I would say we dropped the ball. I don't know why. I mean, and we will continue to look at it. But somehow or the other, the person, maybe because the EMA dropped the ball, decided that they would continue with what they did last year. And I can assure you, we won't drop the ball on this occasion because there are two areas of concern. The first area you have identified is that this person or company has done works which, under the Certificate of Environmental Clearance rules, would have required a CEC. Once we are able to identify the individual, we will issue a notice of violation to the individual, and he will have to answer to us. This is under the EMA. And if the EMA cannot sort it out, it will go to the Environmental Commission. But we need to know who we are to issue the notice of violation to, either the owner of the land or the company that conducted the works without a certificate of environmental clearance.
So, Mr. Romano, a breath of fresh air hearing that you're taking responsibility for the EMA, dropping the ball so far in terms of dealing with this situation. And you're also saying that, of course, you have to issue some communication to the owner of the property, but this cannot be done until you know who the owner is. My question next is, how difficult is it to know who the landowner is? I mean, the space that we live in Trinidad and Tobago, information is something that we can find at the tip of our fingers. So I'm wondering, what is the process to find out who the landowner is, and how difficult that is? Additionally, you also said in the end that you would have to issue the correspondence either to the owner of the property or the company that is doing the works on the property, but the company cannot do the works without the authorization of the owner. So it comes right back to who the owner of the property is. How difficult is it to get the owner, the identity of the owner of the property?
Well, I don't want to answer to say it's difficult or it's not difficult. We have sent correspondence to the THA. They have a land, whatever it is, division to provide us with the information. So we hope that and we are working with the THA on this. I mean, we're not doing this on our own. You know, we need to work with the other government entities on this. And we hope that by next week, we will have the owner and we will sit down and meet with the THA to tell them how we will be moving forward and to ask them what they can do under their legislation. So because remember, it's not only the EMA's legislation in place here, there's also the THA legislation. But before we move on, there is a second activity that took place that is of concern to the EMA. The destruction of the eggs of an environmentally sensitive species. This is a little different from a notice of violation. Because under the environmental species rules, any person who knowingly or recklessly undertakes or conspires, and I'm reading from the Act, to allow an activity in an environmentally sensitive area or with respect to an environmentally sensitive species, and we're talking about the leatherback turtles here, designated under Section 41, which may have an adverse impact on the environment with such area or such species, commits an offense and is liable on conviction on indictment to a fine of $100,000 and imprisonment for 2 years. Little more difficult because the burden of evidence is on he who alleges must prove. So we need to know who was the person operating that piece of equipment. So an officer of the law, either the EMA police officers, who are all precepted SRPs, can serve a charge on this person. Once the charge is served on this person, it will be sent to the Director of Public Prosecutions for him to continue the process through the courts. So in this case, the police is the people who, under the EM Act and the environmental species rules, will charge the person, and then that will proceed to the Director of Public Prosecutions for them to continue with the action through the courts. So I want it to be clear, there are two possible infringements here. Well, I don't want to say, well, there are 2 infringements have occurred here. One is the destruction of the eggs of an environmentally sensitive species, and the other one is the realignment of a drainage course without having a CEC, which is the permit required to do those works.
Mr. Romano, those are the 2 immediate consequences of that action: realigning the watercourse and then the destruction of the leatherback the turtle eggs. But we never can tell what other consequences might be suffered as a result of this action later on. Realigning a watercourse, we don't know what the end result is going to be. We don't know what might pop up again as a consequence of this. So this is a very serious and important matter. And again, I go back to finding out who the owner is, who the company is, whomever the persons are who participated in this event, this occurrence. I find that the investigation needs to be, given a measure of urgency to ensure that we find out who the perpetrators are, and to ensure that the full brunt of the law, I suppose, is, expended to them, because we're talking about realigning a water course here. Okay, we're talking about the drainage going in one direction. What are the other things that could occur as a result of this? And you're talking about destruction of a protected species. Those are just the 2 things that come to light right now. What can happen further? What other destructions can become as a result of this action?
I'm happy that you said that, because in many cases, we as individuals and as developers, we do not understand there's going to be consequence. And that's the reason for the certificate of environmental clearance, so that we could, before you commence your project, look at the possible environmental impacts and come up, if necessary, with mitigation measures. That is why sometimes we need what we call an environmental impact assessment, because we want to know what will be the impact of the activity, the project, on the environment. And that is the basis, Adana, for the CEC rules. So, the reason why we can't answer that question, here, is because we didn't have the opportunity to look to see what would be the impact of those works on the environment in that area. Is it going to be resulting in flooding somewhere in the area? Is it going to be resulting in coastal erosion somewhere in the area? What is the impact? We don't know, because we did not conduct, we did not have the benefit of a CEC.
So these are questions that the EMA and the other agencies who are, responsible for this type of incidents, these are the questions that they have to answer, because we do not have the skills, of course, the skill set and the professionalism to do it, and the expertise. So we're hoping that we get those answers in the soonest possible time, and we do hope also that back again to the owner, that is the primary thing here, the landowner and the operator, the company who operated to excavate and clear that the course of the drain. We want to ensure that we find out who these persons are, and we want to ensure that the steps that are supposed to be taken are taken to ensure that this does not reoccur, and that they experience what the law says they must experience for committing an act of this nature. We have to go for a short break, Mr. Romano. Viewers, ladies and gentlemen, we have to go for a short break before we continue conversations this morning. We're so happy that you're here with us, and we ask that you continue to stay with us as we have this discussion. And as you stay, we invite you, of course, to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago. I am Adana Kumbi, and I continue conversations this morning with Mr. Romano as we talk about the EMA and their roles and functions. And we've been speaking specifically to an incident that took place here in Tobago along the Turtle Beach area, where a drain was excavated and, of course, causing destruction of leatherback turtle eggs. Mr. Romano, now I want to talk about the process that should have taken place before any type of works done in environment, in areas that are protected or areas that are highlighted as special areas, where we're talking about sustainability of resources, we were talking about protection of natural resources. If a project must be done, if any type of, whether it's a private project or a public project, what is the process to ensure that EMA clearance is given before the project commences? What are the steps? Walk us through step by step what should have been done.
So, Adana, the first thing that the person needs to do is to apply for a certificate of environmental clearance from the EMA. And the forms are all available on the EMA's website, www.ema.co.tt. And if you have any challenges in terms of filling out the form, I mean, you can also email cec@ema.co.tt, or you can contact our Tobago office at 238-6717. Tobago office number 238-6717. Once you complete the forms, and you need to give us as much information as possible with respect to the activity on the forms, including the scope of works, the ownership of the land, or if you don't own the land, that you have the owner's permission to do the works on the land. You have to pay $500, and the payment could be made at any branch of First Citizens Bank. We are just finalizing online applications on online payments, and that should be in place very, very, very soon. And once you do that, I mean, we will start the process in terms of processing your application. A lot of people are concerned in terms of the length of time to get the CEC. If you give us all the information, we can get you a CEC in as short as 3 or 4 months. If you require, it's a large project. I mean, based on the nature of the project, based on the scale of the project, based on the location of the project, you require an environmental impact assessment, or EIA. Of course, we need to look at wet season information, that is information during the wet season. So you need to provide us with data during the wet season. And we also need to look at dry season information, because sometimes it changes. I mean, yes, we are a small island, Yes, we are small islands, we are small island developing states. However, we do have changes in the wet season and in the dry season. And therefore, it might take you maybe as much as 18 months. So in planning for your project, you need to plan around the timelines to get the certificate of environmental clearance. And the more information you give us, the quicker we'll be able to process your application. And we will do a site visit. I mean, we will be in constant contact with you in terms of if information is missing or if there's any discrepancies in the information. And we will go through, I mean, and hopefully we will be able to get back a response to you in the soonest possible time.
About to ask if there's a site visit element to the application as well, of course, because you have to see where this project is going to be going. But you did say that a site visit will take place. You mentioned also that there must be an outline of the scope of works. So while the project, once the client has the approval to go ahead and begin their project, are the site visits continuous? Meaning, if the client is now going outside of the scope of works, or they're doing additional things that they did not mention in the scope of works, is a site visit conducted while the project is going on so that the representatives from EMA are able to be, they're supposed to get some measure of accountability from the client to ensure they stay within the parameters of the scope of works?
But, Adana, the first thing is that yes, there are site visits whilst we're processing the CEC, and the site visits continue when the CEC is awarded. So monitoring and evaluation of CECs takes place after the CEC is awarded. And the EMA, in recognizing a couple of years ago that maybe we needed to do a better job on monitoring and evaluation, we structured our strategic plan 2022 to 2026 around the theme of greater compliance for a greener future. Greater compliance for a greener future. And therefore, what we're looking at is not looking at, therefore we're doing a better job with respect to monitoring and evaluation.
We want to know what categories of persons or what type of projects will require EMA clearance before we can embark on it. Because if I want to build a private residence, what qualifies me, or what brings me to that place where I have to get clearance before I start my project, whether it's a private one or a public one? What are the elements?
So a private residence generally does not need EMA approval, except if you're on a slope of greater than 1 in 4, when it will fall under designated activity 8. So generally, private people don't need EMA approval. There are other approvals for that. And I suppose it's a good time to say, Adana, and to stress, EMA's approval is environmental clearance. Remember, it's called the Certificate of Environmental Clearance. So the EMA is given environmental clearance. We are not giving you approval to start your project. There are lots of agencies involved, whether it's the Town and Country Planning Division or the THA or the municipal authorities. All of these people, the fire services, WASA, all these people need to give you approval before you start your project. The EMA is only giving you environmental clearance, which some of the agencies might require. So the location of your project is not the role of the EMA. That's a planning function. Planning makes a decision whether or not the designated activity whether it's a residential development, a hotel, a wastewater treatment plant, an industrial estate. Planning makes that determination of whether that activity can be located in that area. The EMA determination is, should this activity get environmental clearance? And there are 44 designated activities, Adana, and I urge people to look at the EMA's website.
Mr. Romano, can you give us the top five activities of those 44?
Oh my God, top 5. Poultry farms. So poultry farms and agricultural farms above a certain threshold will require a CEC. And that's activity 1. So it's poultry, pig, cattle, and other animal husbandry and production. And generally, we're looking at breeding, hatching, slaughtering of 250 heads of poultry, 25 heads of cattle, 25 heads of pig, or 25 heads of other livestock per year. Top 5, I mean, I'm trying. So there's a lot of agricultural activities, but there's a threshold in most of these activities. Activity 8, clearing, excavation, grading, and land filling. And this is for 2 hectares during a 2-year period, or for land greater, as I said, than 1 in 4, gradient of 1 in 4. Manufacture of processing of foods, food products, and condiments. And that requires a CEC. And I'm trying establishment of institutional facilities and other facilities. And generally, these are facilities with a capacity of 500 or more persons. Establishment of hotels, guest houses. Again, anything of 30 rooms or more. Land reclamation, inclusive of associated works. Clearing of drains, and establishment, clearing of drains, or establishment of land drainage and irrigation schemes. Establishment of a facility for solid waste. And of course, some of the bigger things in terms of oil exploration, in terms of recycling, in terms of waste incineration. So www.ema.co.tt, CEC designated activities will give you a good listing. And I don't know if you could suggest some other way for us to publicize them.
All right, Mr. Romano, thank you so much for bringing us up to date with the position of the EMA. And of course, the interest of the Tobago people is really to find out about the situation that took place there at the Turtle Beach area. We are hoping that we can have some answers soon and that we can know what is happening. And of course, we want to ensure that a reoccurrence or something like this does not reoccur in the Tobago space, affecting and impacting protected species and protected areas, our natural resources, and things like that. So we're looking forward to see where this situation goes, the EMA's position, the THA, and all the other agencies who are involved and responsible for ensuring that the law is attended to where this is concerned. So we do look out for that information in the very near future, we do hope. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Romano. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking with Hayden Romano. He is the director of the EMA, Environmental Management Authority here in Trinidad and Tobago, as we speak about the roles and responsibilities of the EMA, and of course, touching on that incident that took place right here in Tobago at the Turtle Beach area, where an excavation was done, realigning the watercourse and of course damaging some eggs from leatherback turtles. So we do hope we get some result from that in the very near future. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us even up until now. We are always so happy that you choose us, and we look forward to broadcasting to you again. Continue to send your love and your comments and your support and your recommendations to us. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate you. But this is where we end Good Morning Tobago here on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adana Kumbi. Do enjoy your weekend.